All right, we have a quorum, so I'll call this meeting to order. I'll start with the roll call. Sean Gaddis, I am here. Charlotte Ford.
Here.
Bob Garrity. Dan Gelman. Tim Jones. Tyron. Fab. Elizabeth McCabe.
Here.
John Reagan. Here. And Brooke Webb. And from the municipality, we have Rudy Schuylkill, Commissioner Flynn. Are you online?
Yes, I'm here.
Mike Kipperman is here. And Todd Hoffman from the school district as well. And Chief Everman is joining us today as well. All right. Start with meeting minutes from the June 2nd, 2026 meeting. Seeking a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Motion from Bob. Second.
Second.
Second from Elizabeth. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next up, we have citizen comment. I believe we do have some. Can you grab the sheets? Let me read this as well. Zoom participants, if you wish to comment during public comment agenda items, use the raise hand function. During public comment agenda items, the chair will recognize you. When recognized, please be sure to unmute your line and announce your name and address for the record. You will have 5 minutes to comment. In person here, we have Richard Seymour. Please state your name and address for the record. And you have 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Richard Seymour. I live at 750 Washington Road, also known as the Washington Square condominiums. I park in the south garage. I have a lease there. The residents in our building are very much concerned with the future of the municipality's south garage. As such, we are requesting the township to please understand our concerns and consider our desires in any plans for the demolition and future replacement of that garage. Tonight, I will read a letter that we have previously presented to the Board of Commissioners. This letter is dated June 3rd and is signed by Gary Weiss, President of the Washington Square Unit Owners Association Board of Directors. I believe a copy of this letter has also been provided to everybody on the board.
Yes, thank you.
Dear Commissioners Sigler, Izzo, Wilson, Petty, and Flynn, Washington Square Condominium and the municipality of Mount Lebanon have enjoyed a successful partnership for close to 50 years regarding the south parking garage that is attached to our building. You have provided safe, accessible parking for many of our unit owners, and we have in turn provided a steady and reliable income stream for the municipality to support the garage. We have been good neighbors to each other, and we think it is important to continue this successful relationship into the future. When we were informed that the municipality had plans to demolish the garage and potentially change the use of the area, we were obviously concerned that the design may change, or that we will have less of accessibility to the same number of spaces, or that the new design may not connect to our building. We are, by way of this letter, informing each of you of the importance of maintaining the same number of parking spaces provided for Washington Square condominium, and that the new garage will be directly attached to our building as it does now. Also of importance, the EV charging stations that were installed in the south garage should remain part of any new plan, and additional plugs should be considered. Lastly, handicapped accessible parking spaces should be located near our entrance on the 4th floor. Today, the condominium provides home to 123 residential units with approximately 200 people residing in the building. In addition, several commercial businesses are located within our building that utilize the garage. These businesses employ more than 20 people and generate considerable traffic to our community. The south garage is vital to the businesses that operate within the Washington Square condominium and surrounding area. As a resilient community, Mount Lebanon has identified goals for the South Garage redevelopment project, including maintaining robust commercial and residential sectors, meeting community needs, while allowing the site to achieve its highest potential that maintains relationships between the site and existing facilities. The work involved in this project will create impacts across the community, but importantly, those located near the work that is being done. We respectfully ask that when plans are considered, that the disruption that will occur be minimized to the extent it can be. As a request for proposals is being considered for release soon, we urge the Mount Lebanon Commissioners, its Community Planning Board, Mobility and Transportation Board, and its Resiliency Advisory Board to offer their support to include comprehensive language in the request for proposals that will effectively provide for continuing access to Washington Square condominiums from the newly designed space, and will provide an opportunity for those that want to obtain a parking permit in the redesigned facility, if they choose to do so, within a reasonable time before the facility reopens, providing public parking in the community. Thank you in advance for your cooperation with our request and for your support of maintaining the South Garage in a format that is mutually beneficial to Mount Lebanon and the unit owners and residents of Washington Square condominium. Respectfully, Gary Weiss, President, Washington Square Unit Owners Association Board of Directors. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next item on the agenda, we have the chairperson's report. I will note, by the way, we do have a standing agenda item talked about the South Garage, so if you
We'll hang
are
around.
wanting to hang around, yeah. All right, chairperson's report slash my musings for the day. As lovely as the 80-degree weather is outside, I have snow on my mind. I think now is the appropriate time that we need to start talking about snow angels in the community and what we can do to improve that and improve clearance of sidewalks in the community. I had just a hopefully short and easy request for staff to look into basically broken down by ward, how many requests we have and how many of those requests are unfulfilled, so we get a sense for what the unmet need is. And we also have Mr. Hoffman on the line from the school district. I definitely wanted to try and open up lines of communication between the Snow Angels project and students in the school district who are always seeking community service hours. Snow is a very variable thing in terms of community service hours, but I wanted to at least mention it as something that, you know, there are definitely ways that we can work that out, that they can get those hours. I had some other thoughts as well, but I will hold off on those until we hopefully hear back on what our current need is. But the other random thought I had was having kind of an ad hoc group of volunteers that were available to go hit houses wherever they are. Say someone's out of town or they're unable to get to their place. We could have a group of students or other volunteers that would be able to just pick up rather than having a set house that they go to every time, as some of the volunteers currently do. So, just my 2 cents on this warm, sunny August day. All right, next up we have the Commission Liaison Report. Commissioner Flynn.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Obviously, it's been a busy few weeks from a mobility perspective, from a commission perspective. Obviously, we had the e-bike ordinance that was brought forward for consideration, that was removed by the commission. I think rightly so. There was a lot of discussion about e-bike and micromobility safety, which I think is very pertinent. I think we are all very concerned about our kids and making sure that they are moving through our community in ways that are safe for them and safe for pedestrians and safe for all right-of-way users. I think that the ordinance as it was presented really only addressed a very small segment of the issue. It was really only focused on our park, which is really not where the problem is, but that is one place that the municipality can regulate. So I think at the end of the day, we stepped back and recognized that that there are areas that we can focus on. A lot of that is around education and supporting the educational process, as well as advocating with the state to be more comprehensive and robust in terms of their definitions of all of these various devices that are evolving very rapidly in the market. I had very great conversations over the last few weeks with Chief Haberman and his team on this topic. They are being very proactive and working on this. They heard the message. So I think that this is definitely something that the community understands we want to be working on, and the police heard that, the municipality heard that. So again, more to come in this area, but I think we made the right decision given the ordinance that was presented at the time. So Bob, I see your hand up there. I will let me just wrap up. The active transportation plan is in final form. It is beginning to circulate. I can't say off the top of my head exactly what the step is right at this point, in terms of what next steps are, for that. But I do anticipate that we will be, working on formally integrating that into, our processes. I think you all might have heard. If you haven't, I will tell you now. I have been advocating, for a right-of-way manager role. I think I think Rudy will tell you, we're still kind of discussing where that person's role sits and what their functions fully are. But I do think that, again, whether it's the e-bike conversation or it is, the active transportation plan and implementing, these types of programs, right? There's a lot of moving pieces, and I think the municipality is recognizing that. And again, we have a fantastic team, whether it's the police department or it's Rudy's team, but yeah, everybody is, maintaining the assets that we have. It is a different ask to reimagine, right? How we think about these assets and how we transform them over time. Right, it's a complicated set of variables. I know I'm not an engineer that does those types of things. So I think I recognize, and I think that we recognize that that is a journey that we need to be on as demand changes, as demand evolves. And we want to continue to promote being a walkable community and, make it so that our kids and our adults are more able to move around the community, not just in a car. I think that is something that we've all recognized in this community is something that we value, but it's a journey that we are all on, and transportation changes. So what that process looks like and how we ensure that is an ongoing dialogue is going to be important. So lots going on. I am hoping to introduce a resolution to the commission in the next few weeks to more formally request support around education for mobility, to Mr. Hoffman, to put money toward more programming in the schools, but also in the libraries. Around, again, we have a great relationship with the school district already in terms of, fire education. I know we were already doing a lot of education around police, with the police department as well. But how can we expand that, right, to do more around, walk safety, where age, I'll just put it this way, age appropriate mobility education. Again, like I said, we do it with the fire department. We have a firefighter who is primarily doing education, goes through multiple grades every year, teaches age appropriate components. How do we support that type of initiative around mobility? Again, we know it's an issue. We know our kids are growing. We want them to be active community members. We want them to be safe community members. So how do we help them in that educational journey? But then how do we also educate adults? I've learned a lot through this process, frankly. I didn't know that once the crosswalk light starts flashing red, it means don't go. It doesn't mean run faster. And again, me as an adult, I would think, I would have known most of the rules of the road, if not all of them. But like I said, I've learned, through this journey that there are some subtleties that even I wasn't aware of. And again, we all have a lot to learn as transportation changes. So again, that's a funding area that I'm hoping that we can advocate to support that on an ongoing basis, because again, education is part of our infrastructure. And then also to support pushing the legislature to take this up, because again, the laws, as they're written, right, function, but they are very confusing in many respects. They are targeted to specific devices as opposed to categories that are more understandable, both for children, for parents, for adults, frankly, for police officers. I've learned, right? We are all trying to understand what an e-bike is versus a pedal cycle versus a moped, and there does need to be improvement, but that is something that is outside of the remit of the municipality. It is clearly in the responsibilities of the state legislature. So hoping to push on that as well. I said a lot. Mr. Garrity, you had a question.
Yeah, Andrew, I don't want to reopen the e-bike, but when we were looking at that draft, several of us were a little uncertain as what prompted that particular draft. It seemed to be pointed, but wasn't sure if there was some incident or a series of incidents or just concern.
Yeah, my understanding is that there was concern expressed. And again, as Bethel Park and Upper St. Clair both passed similar ordinances, that was pointed to as the reference point for we should do something also. Um, and again, I think as you all may know, right, I spend my share of time on trails in Boyce Mayview or similar. They have a different park system. They have a much larger trail system. So I think in their case, those rules make sense. They just didn't naturally directly apply to the experiences that we are having in our parks. Our parks are smaller. Our parks are more you know uh, finite in their space, and they're you don't have these big long connected stretches. So again, a lot of our challenges are in the roadway as opposed to in the park. So again, just I think it was well intentioned. It was just the translation didn't play out as we were initially looking at the topic.
It's a good point of reference. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner Flynn. Next item of business is the staff liaison report.
Thank you, sir. So a couple updates. Our electrician finished the installation of new solar powered LED lights in the park system, main park primarily. We had a system in there, but they were probably 7, 8 years old and they were starting to fail. So we purchased new lighting, and that's been updated along all the paths and walkways. And this new system actually has better, everything improves with technology over time. And this new system, we can actually replace the batteries now, the rechargeable batteries, the solar panels, or the LED modules. So it's going to produce more light. It's going to be more efficient, and it's just going to work better. So that's been done. We installed a curb ramp at the request of one of our residents down in Williamsburg Park. That was off of Earlswood. There was a square curb there, basically to keep cars from going into the park and to keep the water going towards the drainage areas. But we really didn't think about it, and trying to get a bicycle up over a square curb is a little difficult. So we just threw a wedge of asphalt in there, and it seems to have improved the situation there tremendously.
She sends her thanks.
I think she actually said something at one of at the commission meeting, the last commission meeting, right? So we replaced handrails going down from the Beadling parking lot down to the soccer field. They were starting to get a little shaky and worn, and also from the Bird Park shelter down to the area where the fire pit is. So those are all new. Those have been all updated in the last month or two since we last met. Our contractor's currently paving on scrub grass right now. So final wearing course should be completed tomorrow. And then the delineators and all the pavement markings and so forth will go in probably the following week. You have to give the pavement a little bit of time to kind of breathe, and I think we're going to get some rain over the weekend that kind of washes the oils and so forth off, so you get a good bond with the thermoplastic that will be applied. So looking forward to getting that project finally finished. Our sidewalk root damage replacement contractors working up in the area. Well, they completed sidewalks on Royce, McCauley, Ralston. They're up on the dead end of Beverly right now, and they actually finished that. If you guys are familiar with the path that goes between Oak Park Place and the dead end of Beverly, that was all replaced. That was pretty distorted through there and damaged. So that's all new sidewalk going through there, or at least the slabs that were damaged were. We're going to continue working up through that whole corridor, up on the other side of Beverly Road, up into Marlin East, Marlin West, Arden, that general area until we run out of funding from the budget. Our street reconstruction program, 2 streets are completely done. Furwood Drive, section of Furwood, down by Raleigh and almost up to Maplewood. And then Ruth Street, that section was completed from Linda Lane out to Pin Oak. Turned out real nice. All the pavement markings are in, looks real good. They're currently working on Terrace Drive just up off of Corner Road, replacing a section there. up past Pueblo. So we break that up into sections so that the residents have somewhere to park that are affected by that, because we're actually digging the whole road out. So we don't want to do much more than maximum 1,000 feet so that they can park on both ends of the construction zone and get their groceries to their house and all that kind of thing. So, and we did meet with, speaking of snow and ice, it was funny because we met with our, we have a service provider for a system that we use to manage our responses called Plow Ops. And that's how we manage our team and so forth when we have an event, and we send everyone out, track where they've been and where they're at and so forth. So there's some updates to that system, and we actually met with them this morning too to review those updates. So that's all I have.
I had missed it between the time I was on the traffic board and rejoining mobility. I missed kind of what the end design for Scrubgrass is. Is it basically what it was before, parking lane and 2 lanes?
Pass it up to mine. Yeah.
So it's pretty much the same as it was?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we have the subcommittee reports, capital budget.
No updates, not a chance to meet.
Okay, thank you. And John from the policy and street design.
Okay, policy and street design had 2 meetings in July. First, we had a special meeting regarding the proposed e-bike ordinance, which is kind of a moot point at the moment. But as Bob alluded to, there were questions as to what actually triggered the proposed ordinance and why it was targeting parks specifically. Concerns that the penalties were rather high for an ordinance seemingly targeting kids. So that was the first meeting in early July. And then last week we had a regular meeting where we, I guess we mostly talked about the active transportation plan and execution thereof.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to old business. I'm going to start with the active transportation plan Exhibit B. As a refresher, since it's been 2 months since we last met, this was an exhibit to be amended to the resolution that we recommended on implementation of the active transportation plan that John introduced pretty close to before our May meeting. It would have been, no, sorry, June meeting. We didn't meet in July. And generally, to paraphrase and kind of remind folks of what was involved there, more or less, when a street is being reconstructed or modified in any way, taking a look at alternate uses for that space. Are there better ways that it can be reconfigured? Different uses, different ADA compliance things, additions of sidewalks, bike lanes, et cetera, et cetera. So that's my paraphrasing. Hope everybody had a chance to kind of look it over in the interim. Wanted to spend probably about 5-10 minutes discussing and kind of get a sense for where we stand on it. I don't know if John, if you wanted to add anything from as the author of it to come back to it, or is that a reasonable summary?
I think that's a good summary. Probably as good as I could have done, because it was 2 months ago and a lot has happened since then.
Were there any initial questions, I suppose, that anyone had on it? Okay. So just my, yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Sean, in our policy and street design subcommittee meeting, the conversation came up, much led by Andrew, in regard to, well, how do we start getting things into new street designs? And there's a component of timing that, if we want to do something that is significant on a street that's about to be redone, Rudy's team needs lead time, and we probably can't really affect an awful lot because contracts are out and budget is already established and so on. Is the active transportation plan contemplating timing on how we get things into consideration for new design, rework, maintenance?
Commissioner Flynn, I don't know if you have any comment on that.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, as I was reading through it outlines the process that we should adopt. It doesn't give us specifics. I think that was, really, I was hoping for a more, kind of framed in process, but I think they, given their role, I think they outlined kind of what the process should look like, but leave it to, us as a municipality to, kind of figure out how to put that in place and make sure that it is, a going process. I think it's one of the area that, again, I've been kind of poking at this, with this board for a while, and I think that now that the ATP is wrapping up, we probably need to, get all the right people at the table and have this conversation as to how are we going to do this. Because it's clearly more than just, the mobility board. It's clearly more than Rudy and Mike, and the mobility board. It is, right. There are multiple stakeholders, and we need to really have clarity as to everybody's role and timings and responsibilities, so that we can ease into this and not have a rolling frustration amongst all of us, because change is hard, right? So I suspect that, in the coming months, this is going to be an area where we will want to sit down and kind of hash out what this looks like.
And I'll add to that a reminder that the ATP is a joint plan between us and Dormont. And so we can't really be too prescriptive in the ATP itself on policy and implementation, or on implementation specifically. That would need to happen outside of that, because we can't force their hand to do something that we want to do. So John, I've had a read through it again today, and just kind of a couple comments to tack onto it. So I think the idea is excellent. I think having a standing set of things that we should look at when we go through and are trying to redo a road, right? We should have a walkthrough and a kind of visualize what are the other potential uses that we have here. The two concerns I had were on it being potentially too prescriptive, on like, here's a set of things, and we kind of want it to be open-ended, and I don't want it necessarily to be too much. I don't want it to be busy work, and I don't think it is busy work, right? To be able to check off boxes and say like, no, we can't do this for X reason. I think that is a valuable thing to be able to bring back to the table and say like, we did look at these things, but I don't want it to necessarily be very, very prescriptive and say, we must look at all of these things for every project. And the other one was cost. Is that something that you had in mind in there, that like, or is it strictly a like carte blanche, like these are the designs that could happen, but is like the potential cost outcomes of, yes, we could, take a road and rip it up and put in a bunch of really nice planter boxes and do X, Y, Z, and the cost for that could be, very, very large compared to repaving it as is.
Well, I think the important thing on that, it's a great point, right? But oftentimes when you put that restriction too early in the process, right, the best idea gets killed before it's even brought forward. So I'm sensitive to that, right? What does the community want, right? And what is the community willing to pay for? Well, that's a discussion that should be had, and that those trade-offs need to be made apparent. But that doesn't mean that we don't present, the fancy option. It just means that we have to recognize that as those items are brought forward, right, that final decision to spend taxpayer dollars does rest with the commission. And we want to present those things in ways that are going to facilitate the discussion as opposed to kill it before it even gets to that level of dialogue. Because I think that's part of our challenge, right, is that, anytime you deviate, there is expense. And so don't deviate. Well, but change requires deviation. So how do we at least understand it and create context for it? Finance is a part of that exercise, 100%.
So I don't think that I mentioned cost explicitly anywhere in the document, but it is that the intent is that it is considered when you're looking at something. So this is, you were right, this is supposed to be a checklist of sorts, or at least a way to develop a checklist. So it's not demanding like detailed cost estimates at a very early stage, but it does expect someone with some knowledge of street construction costs to be able to look at something and be able to, if it would be, and just discount out of hand very expensive measures that are disproportionate to the context. And so yeah, like that is part of the evaluation. Well, we might have room for A, but A is too expensive. So you write that down, like, but it is, regarding the other thing of being too prescriptive. So my background is that I see a lot of things that are, a lot of written processes that are bad and nobody follows them because nobody reads them. So I'm trying to strike a middle ground between like clarity, but also including concrete steps that people can point to, and like there needs to be some sort of checklist. If you don't have bullet points for people to follow, people are just going to do what they want.
I agree.
There's a balance to be struck.
Yeah, and we see with Complete Streets, right? Like, this is basically an expansion of one of the paragraphs of Complete Streets that like every time we open a road, we should be looking at this, right? That's in the Complete Streets policy that we have on the books. And this is basically a more detailed version of that is kind of how I would frame it.
So the idea that I had in my mind when I wrote this is that somebody, like if there's an opportunity to like improve ADA compliance, at the very least, if you're not, somebody has to be willing to write their name and say, no, I don't want ADA compliance on this street. So which should give them at least a little bit of pause to consider whether something is really feasible or not. That's my thought.
Andrew, I wanted to get your feedback specifically. What form do you think is the best way to try to, have this feedback enacted by staff, right? Would it be an exhibit like this, or would it be a set of recommendations coming out of the board that's maybe less formal, but has like, these are the things we would really like to see? What's the most likely to actually gain some traction?
Again, this is where I think the meeting of the minds needs to happen, right? Because ultimately, as I think about this is a function that municipal staff has to carry, right? At the heart of it, right? Again, this advisory board, future advisory boards are going to, participate in a process that staff are ultimately responsible for ensuring is done, right? That's how this ultimately has to work. So I think to a certain extent, we need to sit down, again, is it planning, right? I suspect Rudy would say yes, it's planning. Of course it's planning. I don't know. I can't see you, Rudy, but I assume you're nodding. But that, again, how do we do that, right? And what are the data points that need to be captured, and what is that process that needs to be facilitated? Again, I'm a firm believer that that we want certain checkpoints, and what those checkpoints involve. Right? Again, that's probably that's a gate in the process that needs to be defined, and what is the purpose of that gate, and who needs to review it, and what's the vote that's related to it. Right, those are steps that we need to go through. I don't know that I want to be prescriptive right now as to exactly what form goes where, because again, this is going to be an evolving process. I think right now for me, it's more a question of how do we make sure that we know which streets are coming in the next 3 to 5 years. We know which ones the mobility board or the community writ large feels is important to be considering, and then go through that consideration process, and then have a vote of some sort that says this is what we took up, and this is what we we believe would be the right solution. Here are the details. Again, how that plays out, again, I think is to be determined.
John, would you mind if I took a pass through it and kind of laid it out as a set of, like, these are things we would like to see, rather than like, you must do these things? And then bring that back next month, or probably even before next month. I can circulate it mid-month so people can look at it beforehand.
Meaning, are you talking about with an emphasis on the potential, the list of potential changes, or are you talking about the process?
Somewhat the process. So I'm basically going through what you have, but stating it rather than kind of an explicit, like an exhibit for a policy. Say these are our recommendations, that when you're touching a street, these are the things that we want you to look at. We would like you to look at. Because I don't think we can be too prescriptive with staff, but like I think we should absolutely say that these are the things that we care about.
Can I just mention too, what I'm hearing is that it makes it sound like we're not even looking at ADA compliance when we open the street, but I mean, we absolutely are. I mean, we're obligated actually by federal and state laws to upgrade any ADA ramps and those type of things if we even touch them. So just so everybody's clear, we're already looking at that stuff through our engineers and so forth when we're rebuilding the street or reconstructing it or even repaving it. And the utilities are obligated to do that too whenever they're doing restoration. So
I think that's the one I'm least concerned about.
I don't know how often the actual upgrades are triggered. All I know is, and also there's the weird state where the draft guidance for implementation of the law is still a work in progress and has not been fully adopted for enforcement. So like we're operating on like like an extrapolation of the ADA for buildings onto sidewalk construction. It's kind of, anyway, but so
it's hard to get compliance in Pennsylvania too, in this area, with the slopes and everything.
So I don't know how often the actual upgrades are triggered. All I know is that, maybe the sidewalk hasn't been touched in 30 years and that's why it is incompliant. All I know is that you walk down the street, it only takes a couple 100 feet to come across some type of non-compliance, whether it be it depends whether it's the sort of informal interim compliance or like the final compliance that doesn't exist yet. But it could vary from like a very minor thing, like there is no curb cut here and physically a wheelchair user has to go around to a different block, or it could just be more minor things where it's more difficult but they can get through. And is that because the sidewalk hasn't been constructed, or is it because literally the process hasn't been triggered yet? Or was it triggered but somebody was like, it's probably not feasible to upgrade it? And so I think I don't know.
That depends on each individual site. I mean, I would have to say, if not always, the vast majority of the times, we're looking at upgrading and improving any of the ADA features that are required. So now that's not the whole entire sidewalk network, but it's the corners, it's the access to the sidewalks and access to the street to cross the streets.
And I guess I should clarify when I say that. So like I think a lot of us have been talking about this thing in terms of street narrowing. So basically, like a big part of that is if your sidewalk is blocked by a telephone pole and the clearance is 1 foot, obvious. So
right.
The old paradigm would be, well, that's not feasible to upgrade. The new paradigm is like this street is like 3 feet wider than it needs to be. Bam, 4 feet wide. You've complied by moving the curb a bit. So that's what this is for.
And I'll mention that ADA is one of 9 points on the list, right?
I just wanted to make that comment.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I wasn't necessarily implying like actually violating the law, just like the physical sidewalk that's there now does not meet the standards, and however whether it could be a 50-year-old sidewalk or currently considered infeasible because of our street standards. I don't know.
So the idea is these 9 things would be evaluated every time a street or curb is redone.
Yep.
And the idea is those 9 things would be submitted to sort of our group that oversees that whole, whether it's compliant.
What,
I think the
can I
idea,
jump in, Chief Haberman? I think at the heart of it, right, anytime that right, we tear something out, it would be ideal. But my personal opinion is that it's when there's major change scheduled, right? Because ultimately, right, at least as I think about this, yeah, if we're going to go do traffic calming, right? If the conversation is, hey, we're going to go like we did on Arden, right? There's a whole bunch of change that is being proposed. Let's do it the right way. Obviously, through the course of business, if we can make incremental improvements, great. But I think for me, the thought is how do we ensure that when there is, repaving, reconstruction, that substantively will, necessitate disruption, of a larger scale. How do we take that opportunity to say, okay, the target state of this street is X. So this section that we are doing this time is going to change these ways. Because we are moving to a new approved target model as opposed to the legacy model. Maybe an example would be we're going to take out the old sidewalk that had the tree lawn, and we're going to replace, and we're going to put the new sidewalk in by the curb instead, right? That's a big shift, right? And I wouldn't ask Rudy to go do that willy-nilly. But if it's time to go redo a whole section of sidewalk, then maybe that's the time to make those types of shifts, as an organization, right? So again, I think there's a question of scale that we need to be thinking about, while also recognizing that a lot of the change is business as usual. But how do we also provide, that support so that those pieces are there as well?
And I think this function would ideally live with the potential right-of-way manager, right? That would be something that would fall under their purview for actually doing the engineering type work of saying, yes, we looked at, and that's part of it is there are currently 9 things in that list, but I don't necessarily want to be beholden to just those 9 things. I want some, if something new comes along, if there's a 10th thing that we hadn't thought about, I want that to factor into it as well. So that's part of the reason I don't want it to be too narrow, for example. But this is kind of it's more of a process, right? Of these are things that should happen when we are doing a street reconstruction, and we want to make sure that they happen.
yeah, this is a starter list I came up with in like an evening. So I should hope that if this were instituted, that it would be updated periodically based on actual experience.
So I think let's put it on the agenda for next month. I do want to take a pass through it, and I'll circulate it with the board as well during the month, and if we can get some feedback going on it, and see if we can narrow it down and make a recommendation.
There's going to be an actual discussion. I mean, Mike's our traffic engineer,
Yep.
but should I bring our construction engineers as well, our civil engineers from Gateway, and have a representative there that actually works on our programs? I think it's the right thing to do, especially at the beginning, so that we're not making plans to put a policy in place that's going to be counteractive of what we're trying to accomplish with the regular reconstruction and what some of those hurdles are. I know them, but to have our engineer here would be helpful as well.
I also would like to tap the brakes just a minute, because as Andrew said, like the ATP is getting close, and I would really like to see what's in it before we
Okay, so,
make any
all right.
further recommendations. So I
Sounds
think
good.
But I agree, Rudy. I think your point is well taken, right?
Yes,
Again, and
absolutely.
that's where I do think that this is ultimately a staff discussion, right? This board and commission are going to adopt policies that ultimately, right, need to be implemented by you and your teams, right? They're the only functions that we have are oversight and engagement and support. So how do we do this and implement the interests of the community as efficiently and effectively as possible without causing massive disruption, right? It's important.
Yeah, we have a lot of experience building streets, so, we know what's out there. You have utility issues and all those kind of hurdles, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's a discussion I think we absolutely should have. I don't think we're
It's
quite
not
there.
time yet.
Yeah.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, next item, South Garage. Thank you for the public comment today. I'm not sure if either Rudy or Commissioner Flandern, who the right person, if we have any kind of update on the RFP, or that's not the right word, but the equivalent of an RFP.
Actually, there is an RFP. I was notified this morning that CBRE did send it out. I'm trying to pull it up in my inbox right now. It is looking for qualified developers. So it is not, actual work at this point. It is simply looking for those parties who would be interested in this type of development. I'm sorry, I didn't catch who was from next door, but I did ask the manager to send it over to Jerry and to so that everybody has that information, and so you can see what we are seeing as well. But at this point, it's really it is just the RFP that has gone out for looking for interested developers.
All right. Thank you very much. On to new business. First item, we have a petition for traffic calming.
I'm sorry, I do have a question for Andrew.
Yes.
Do you have any sense with that RFP that is looking for qualified contractors? Do we have any sense of when that is expected to go out and be turned around?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a schedule on here that I see.
But it is on the street.
Yeah, I'm looking at the website right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I will stick it in the chat.
Great.
Let's see here. Bear with me one moment, please.
Yeah, I don't need to hold up the meeting for that, but that would be interesting information.
Though I don't have the chat function, I apologize.
No, nor do I.
Nope. No, we're locked out of chat. Sorry. But again, we will make sure that it is out. And again, CBRE sent it out. We were made aware that here it is. Questions are due August 19th. Written answers will be posted by CBRE on the 29th of August. And then the RFP responses are due on October 1st, 2026.
10-1 response. Great, thanks. And what website were you looking at that? Is that a CBRE?
It's CBRE's website.
Okay.
Yeah, they sent out an email. Apparently, I would assume to their network, to folks that they would consider candidates to respond.
Okay, sounds great. All right, thank you.
All right. The traffic calming petition for Inglewood, is that you, Chief Haberman, or who's?
I have some data that the police traffic division shared with me. So they did collect data from July 29th through July 6th. Quick summary of both directions. They collected data in both directions. Northbound, which is the odd side of the street, the average speed was 20 miles an hour. It's posted 25 miles an hour speed limit. The 85th percentile was 26 miles per hour. Total vehicle count in the northbound direction for that week was 964 total vehicles. Southbound data collection, which is the even side of the street, average speed was 23 miles per hour in a 25 mile an hour zone. 85th percentile speed was 27 miles per hour. Total vehicle count in that direction was 1,798 total for the whole week.
It's quite a difference between one direction and the other.
Yeah, it's surprising. I'm not really sure why, but they may be accessing that. I'm trying to think of.
Is that a dead end
See,
road?
northbound is, I thought that ran east and west, actually, Inglewood, but well, it's dead end down at the bottom, but you come off of Seneca and go off Altadena. I think it was further down in that flat area where the data was captured. Whoever sent the email, that's where the lieutenant had the device placed in both directions, so.
Okay. And my understanding, that does not meet criteria.
It does not, it has to be 7 miles over the posted speed limit and over 2,000 vehicles, traffic per day.
Got close.
Well, that's for the day, not for the week. This is a week.
That's week.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay, someone will follow up with the person that.
I already did by email, yes.
Okay.
They thanked us for collecting the data in the police department, so thank you to the police department.
Okay, and then the last item of new business,
Last
yep,
item.
sorry, go ahead.
No, my apologies.
Last item of new business, I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, the PRT bus line redesign is going to reach its final draft. It will be released to the public on August 17th. If it goes the way that it currently is in the second draft, we are losing major service to Cedar Boulevard, the Galleria, and South Hills Village on the 36th. That line is being rerouted and will only come to the T station in Uptown. And it's currently slated to go up Cedar, which I'm not a huge fan of. So I wanted to put that out there. There are some great additions. We're getting nonstop service to Oakland, which is great for a lot of commuters that are going to that area of town. But yeah, there are a number of changes that I personally don't love. I know that line is underutilized, and that's sad, but it cuts off public transit access to the Market District down there, Trader Joe's, Galleria. So I wanted to at least, and that is not a final design, that was the last draft that came out. But I wanted to at least get it on people's radar that August 17th is when that's coming out. So both electeds and staff and this board, I think it is pertinent for us to pay attention and potentially provide comment during that period on hopefully trying to maintain some of that access, but it's hard to argue against data at some points. I will also say that the stops along that corridor are not the best. They could be improved and better utilized, but yeah, as someone who has ridden that line to work, it would be sad to see it go away. It's also going to be only Monday through Friday for commuters. It will not run on the weekends. So don't know if there were any questions or comments, but yeah, it was mainly just a point of we should be looking at this over the next month and make people aware of it.
I just have something else on a new business. We will know that.
I don't have anything else.
So I just wanted to add a couple of things from our perspective to get everyone up to speed on a few things. Not only in addition to what Commissioner Flynn said regarding our education and informing of not only police officers, but the public and parents and kids about micromobility devices, we're really coming into a push with that. And we continue to emphasize the need for the community to be involved in that educational process. So I encourage you to go to our website, montlebanon.org, and you will find the transportation page with the micromobility link there with all of the updated delineations of devices as well as the restrictions associated with those. Currently, in its current form, there are a significant number of laws that prevent people under 16 from utilizing those things. The things that look like motorcycles are motorcycles. All of those things are in fact true, and it is what it is. So any changes or adjustments really need to go through the legislature whenever it comes to those things. We continue to work with the school district on a number of different things. Dr. Freeze and her team and our team have been hard at work reevaluating the crossing guard post. That has not really been undertaken in the last 20 years in terms of a comprehensive review. Prior to this review, there was a program in place called, essentially it was a safe walking certification that you could get, or a recommended walking certification that was actually offered by the state. That program has since become defunct. So since that time, we've recognized the metrics within our own agency and really that overlays to just Mount Lebanon. There's not very many communities like ours that we can overlay that to. So what we've done is evaluated everything from head counts of students that are traveling, as well as redundancy of posts that maybe are within, a half a block of another post that people can just be retrained to go to a different location. So all in all, there's 7 locations that have been eliminated, and that list has been heavily really socialized with the PTA, our crossing guard director, Sharon Croner, as well as our traffic unit, as well as the school district, all of their admins in terms of their administrators within the schools. So we understand that changes have occurred to the level of commuters that we have. We are a commuting district. I would say we are encouraged walking, but we are by numbers a commuting district when it comes to drop off and pick up, just by sheer numbers of that. That's really something that we've noticed over the last number of years. So for that, we made some adjustments, staffing, whether it's, is getting people to do the job or making it a sustainable model. As we move forward, we make those adjustments. So we feel very comfortable with the adjustments we made. We feel very confident that it'll help us in a staffing capacity and make sure that the posts that we do identify, that we'll have people there in the right places.
How is the staffing? Do you feel like you have a good level for
Yeah,
the
we're
year?
perfect. Right now, we're at 32 posts, and we have 31 full-time guards with 9 subs. And we'll be, there's obviously an ongoing push to continue to get guards, but I'm very confident that we'll be fine with that number.
Is there a way to find out which posts were eliminated?
Yeah, the school district's gonna be releasing that very soon through the parents. So if you have school-age kids, you'll know. The commission has the list as well. So we'll be pushing that out, and I'll make sure our PIO puts it on our transportation page as well.
Okay.
That those 7 spots, like I said, are really based on those factors I mentioned earlier.
DG,
Yeah, thank you.
any other items of new business? All right. Item number 9, announcing the next meeting date and time. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Mount Lebanon Mobility and Transportation Board is Tuesday. No, it's not. It'll be Tuesday, September
I think it's September 1st.
1st at 6 p.m. All municipal meetings will have Zoom webinar component to enable residents to attend the meeting virtually. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good night,
you.
everybody.
Night.
Nice.